I welcome you all to the podcast on US India Defense Tech Transfer and Production Future Recommendations and Way Forward. It's my pleasure to welcome our guest today for today's episode, Mr. Yusuf Unjhawala, Adjunct Fellow Takshashila Foundation. He's also contributed on defense and security affairs in Economic Times, Mint, The Print, LifeWiz, The Pragati, Deccan Herald, and many more. Welcome to Christ University, sir.
Thanks so much, Craig.
Sir, let me hop on to the very first question. Currently, I would like to start with what are the challenges that you see in the domain of defense tech and transfer that both the countries are facing right now?
Thanks for having me over here. The challenges can be defined into, say, technical, and then probably we might also have to look at the political angle as well. Come to both of them. The technical challenges are, see, the US is a very advanced power. They have all kinds of technology. They lead in the defense space. So there are certain guarding of technology which they will not share. It makes both commercial as well as strategic sense to not share everything. And they usually don't share with even their closest allies. It's not that they don't share anything, but then when it comes to absolute critical things, they don't share. I mean, that is what we're seeing even with the AUKUS deal, where they're finding it difficult through all the maze of US export controls that are there, that they're finding it difficult to work out ways where they can share technology with Australia for the nuclear submarine. So having said that, it's not that as if nothing can happen. So we've just seen that last year there was an agreement for the jet engines, for the GEF 414 engines, which will power the LCA Mk2, as well as the fifth generation fighter, which is the AMCA. It's a good beginning because the India-US ties have grown in the last few years, and the defense ties have grown in a manner where it's all been buying. So India has bought a lot of US equipment since the very first deal that was signed back in 2007 or 8, which was for the C-130. I think in the last 15 odd years, we've bought about $25 billion worth of US military equipment. And apart from that, we have signed various other deals, which is Lemo and Comcast and things like that. We are there, we were assigned the STA-1, which allowed us to kind of get authorized for all kinds of defense related equipment without the maze of bureaucracy and the control systems which are there. But even then there are issues. That is one part. The second part is the ability of Indian industry to absorb technologies which are even transferred. So whatever else at the larger spectrum or larger level is not transferred, but India has been supplying a lot of defense equipment to American companies. In fact, about 35% of India's defense exports are to the US. And this would be in, small components or large components which go into the US supply chain. So companies like Lockheed and Boeing buy a lot of material from India. That would include, say, tail of an aircraft. The entire Apache helicopter chassis is made in India by Tata. So things like that, which India is doing. So at certain levels, then these large companies may be able to absorb technology and do things. But when it comes to lower down, the US companies are looking for partners in India. Then they would find it difficult for them to transfer that technology and technology to be absorbed by Indian industry over here and replicate it towards their quality and production standards. So that is another challenge. And coming to the political side, this would be, classified as how India takes its relations with both United States and Russia. I would particularly say when India bought the S-400, there was a threat of sanctions. However, that was taken care of because the India-US ties are very crucial for both countries, and they don't want to break this partnership, because if there are any sanctions on India, then it's going to impact the larger ties. So the sanctions have not come. We have worked a way around. Having said that, the F-35, which is the fifth generation fighter, would be closed for sale to India. India has not asked for it. There have been certain talks, but I'm just trying to say that certain decisions that India takes with its other relations can have certain impact on defense trade with the US, because The reason why they said they won't give F-35 is because they don't want the abilities of the F-35s to be captured by the S-400 system and somehow go to Russia, which is an adversary of the US. So that is one part of the political thing. The second part of the political thing is we pursue our ties with Russia to an extent where, although we want to pursue those ties, but there will come a time where, because the world is getting so polarized with Russia and China on one side and the West on the other side, if there is some kind of choice to be made or under pressure that you have to make certain choices, then certain weapon system may not come to us, which we need in its entirety. So, I mean, these are the things that are challenges that may come. I don't think it's impossible to overcome them. Maybe if India wanted the F-35, I'm against doing that. But if India wanted the F-35, I don't think the US would refuse, although they have been very skeptical ever since we bought the S-400. So these are the challenges that we may face or are existing right now.
Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, when it comes to challenges in cooperation, there is much talk that has happened by experts in the media. But when it comes to the way forward or the future recommendations that both the countries need to take into account to improve this relationship, especially in the domain of defense tech and transfer, what are your suggestions? Where do you see both the countries are headed?
So I think this was attempted with the Defense Technology and Trade Initiative, which is DTTI, which was, I think, 2012. Uh, there were some lofty ambitions, but that didn't work. And then we recently had Indus X, which is the iteration away from DTI, realizing that it didn't produce any results. But the failure of DTTI was for the reasons I mentioned earlier, because US has everything in terms of technology, and it does not need funding from anywhere else. So their companies are, first of all, privately owned, and they are going to guard their technologies. And sharing of that technology is very difficult. We're still trying to come up with frameworks as to how that can happen. Once DTTI failed, we got the Indus X, and the way forward now we see it is at working at the grassroots level, at smaller level. So with Indus X, what has happened is there's a collaboration between the startups in the US and startups in India. There's also, at the academic level, there is a framework to cooperate. What was there with DTTI was come up with a larger kind of a weapon system. So we were talk of, say, the Javelin missile system, which the US had already produced. There was no scope for any joint research and joint development and joint production because Javelin was already a mature technology. So the only thing that would have happened was just a sale to India, which India did not want. That's the reason why it failed. So going back to my thing about, where the US has everything, it does not need anybody else. With Russia, what happened was India could, finance some of their projects for our benefit. And because Russian defense is all government control, they can choose what technology they want to share with India. That's the reason why BrahMos happened, right? So that kind of a major success story is still eluding the India-US defense relations. So we can't say we have a BrahMos to show that this is the pinnacle of our defense cooperation, or say even the nuclear submarine cooperation which happens between India and Russia. There is no such success story. Until now, the jet engine deal is somewhere close to that. So we still have a long way to go in that, and that will then go to the trust factor level where the US is completely trusting India that this relationship is going in one direction, but the way India works is we're going to hedge our bets around and multipolarity and things like that. So there are which is not bad, but then those are the choices we'll make, and then the Americans have their own choices to take from there.
So, on that positive note, to conclude, if I have always thought that the China factor in terms of India and US relationship has been exploited too much. Like, it's always something that people attribute China's presence to India US cooperation in any domain. How much do you think it's true? Is it only because of China that India and US align together, or it's because there are other factors behind it?
There are other factors behind. Unfortunately, what we see is a lot of China in India-US ties, and I've said that if it's very narrowly focused only on China, then this relationship will not move forward. But that's not the case in the sense that we have, first of all, great people-to-people connect. We have what 40 lakh people of Indian origin living in the US. That's a huge diaspora, and they're doing very well. They are in all branches of the US administration as well, and there is bipartisan support. So that is one. There is great economic linkages. If you compare India-US relations in terms of the economics versus India-Russia ties, you would see the massive difference. It was always been defense trade, nothing else. Since the war in Ukraine started, then oil has been added. But it was larger, with a whole different angles to India-US ties, cooperation even levels, including with the Index. They're looking at quantum computing and green technology. We're working on things like climate change, and things like that, and then also cooperating with the Quad, and we have their own Quad agenda. So it's comprehensive. That's the reason why the relation also is called the Global Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. So the relation between India and the US is more comprehensive. Unfortunately, just a lot of people just tend to box it down just through the China angle. Even if you look at the way the world is going now, if there is a barrier dropped, like the Iron Curtain of the old times, where the world is divided into two blocks, India would be the largest market for US, because if, with China closed down, we are the 140 crore market that is there for the US. And that is going to be a very crucial factor. That is the reason why there are investments coming in. Apple is coming to India. They want to export about 25% of their production, from India. So these are the things which are working for India, and so I think it's very narrowly judged by some people as only China and that's nothing else. But I think there's more comprehensive.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on this very relevant topic, and thank you for being here, sir. Thank you.
Welcome, pleasure.